When one talks about Cherrapunji or Sohra, the immediate thought that comes to mind is the rain. Tons of rain that have shaped the land and the people. However, in this journey, we are not going to chase the monsoon or the rain, but explore Cherrapunji from a different perspective, which is, what does this famous destination look like just after the monsoons? Our first stop is at Lightringo, about 50 kilometers from Shillong. We move further inside to the land's end, overlooking the canyon and the plains of Bangladesh in the horizon. The internal road leads to the other part of the village that extends up to the edge of the canyon. There are a number of houses that dot the landscape. We got down and walked to the viewpoint, located some distance away from the road. It was a fascinating sight. I'm standing here in one of the viewpoints on Cherrapunji Plateau. Everybody knows Cherrapunji because of the rain. But after the monsoons, this is what Cherrapunji looks like. The blue sky and blue mountains to the south dominated the view. To the west, the plateau transcended into the horizon. The Garden of Caves is a natural rock garden that has been carved by rainwater into a maze of hollows, caves, streams and waterfalls. It is a popular tourist destination with footpaths and steps constructed inside the garden. The signages directs us to the natural rock formations which have been assigned names: the King's Cave and the King's Bed and Pillow. Further up, there is a cavern which has a waterfall inside called Sum's Aim Falls, or the waterfall where the king bathes.
Where I'm standing right now is a natural cave. The architect of this labyrinth of caves and hollows is none other than water.
There are trees and plants all around which enhance the natural beauty of the place. The rocks and stone have been shaped by the incessant rain that continues for days on end during the monsoons. heart-shaped hollow on the stone surface is an interesting piece of water sculpture here. In the past, Lightringau used to be a coal mining village. Today coal is still available, but the quantity is much lesser. On the hillside in and around the village, there are a number of rat hole mines. Coal mining used to be a major source of livelihood. It practically takes more than a day or two to explore the sights and sounds of Cherrapunji. We skip some of the popular tourist sites and make our way to a lesser known part of the plateau. It is the river that includes the legendary Molokai Falls, a 1,115 feet plunge from the top. We are on the right track and move along the trail, following the arrows marked on stone to the river down below. Further down is a stone forest path that is quite steep at some places. The path to the top of Molokai Falls was open for visitors recently. It is a great trail through a rocky riverbed, waterfalls, river pools, and challenging rock hollows and tunnels. The water level was low enough for us to walk across towards the edge of the precipice where the river makes the fall. The riverbed was slippery and we had to measure our steps slowly and cautiously, but it was fun wading through the stream barefoot. I had to carry my shoes as it was easier to navigate the bends and corners along the way. The riverbed was made out of a series of flat rock, the surface of which was shaped and smoothened by the water. There were big and small tunnels in which the rivers passed through and narrow channels all along the way. As we moved downstream, there was a drop in the level. As the water slided down, the mosaic of rocks and waterfalls and pools. Every step of the way, the route was a decorative pattern composed of a collection of interesting shapes and sizes of rocks and stones. This was indeed a museum. The rocks sculpted by the water were the artwork, and on both sides of the river, the carved rock walls resembled an art gallery. It was a living, natural museum in its most organic form, with the artist, a master sculptor, inherently embracing the artwork for hundreds of years, ever present, ever flowing, upstream and downstream, and finally the water plunges down in a final tribute to Cherrapunji in a work of art, the Molokai Falls. A dramatic end to a spectacle of landscape and waterscape. The last leg of the trek took me through rock hollows which I had to slide through. Initially I thought that I would not fit in through the hole, but on my second attempt I managed to wriggle through the hole. I climbed ladders and rocks strewn with fossils of a bygone era embedded on the rock, and shapes like the crescent moon, probably aquatic creatures. This also tells us the story that this part of the world was once upon a time underwater. Apart from the natural elements that are so prominent in this arena of rock and water, there was a spiritual element. It is an invisible and subtle presence which one cannot ignore in the journey to the top of the falls. I literally crawled from one rock to another until I reached the river's edge. I carefully followed the arrows painted on the rocks, and still further down, the rock walls on both sides transformed into an eerie looking landscape that seemed out of this world. The Molokai Falls is the highest waterfall in Meghalaya and the tallest plunge waterfall in India. It falls 340 meters from where I am standing. The drone images from high above reveal a view I have never seen from this angle before. It is a fascinating sight of the falls plunging below to a deep blue pool at the bottom of the cliff face.
That was a short trek but memorable. I'm standing on top of Molokai Falls, and this is surreal.
Further upstream, the river is a curved line, barely discernible as it meanders across thick vegetation. It was back to ground zero and we still had enough daylight for a visit to a subterranean world. I scrambled alongside the rocks, my hands gripping the uneven wall surface for support. Further up the trail, it was the slide through the hole in the rock, and after some time, we climbed back on the forest path. Surreal as the feeling goes of an epic experience that escapes a befitting description for mortals like me. We stopped briefly at the Krishna Mission, one of the foremost institutions in Sohra, where leaders and great minds of the state had studied. The mission, since its establishment in 1924, had been serving the people of the state in various capacities, providing quality education and medical care. We stopped by the local market to get a feel of the pulse of the village. Like every market, there were a variety of things being sold. It was the orange season, and the famous Sohra orange in cane bamboo baskets were finding a lot of buyers. Other than the oranges, there were the cherpunji honey and vegetables being sold in the shops. Recently, Sohra has seen an exponential increase in the number of homestays and guest houses due to the huge footfall of tourists visiting the place. Tourism is the major industry in Cherrapunji, attracting thousands from all over the country and abroad. We stopped by the oldest cemetery in the state on a hill, where the kith and kin of the pioneer Christian missionaries that made inroads into the northeast were buried. The old weather-beaten stone monuments erected to honor them stood guard today in memory of the brave men and women who left their homes from thousands of miles to serve in an unknown land. We as a tribe owe a lot to the Welsh missionaries for their contribution to our literature and to our well-being. From the Mound of the Dead, we stepped into the oldest church in the northeast, a structure which is a distinct landmark in Cherrapunji. It was here that the father of the Khasi alphabet, Reverend Thomas Jones of the Welsh Presbyterian Mission, lived and served the people. The church is well maintained today and is a prominent heritage site. In fact, Cherrapunji, besides being a natural heritage site due to the record-breaking rainfall, it is also a historical place because of the fact that it is home to the numerous monuments and institutions which were instrumental in bringing about a change in the society. Cherrapunji is also home to a number of caves. The lesser known Arwa Cave has recently become a major destination. The cobblestone path to the cave offers a refreshing walk all along the way. In between the walkway, there are viewpoints where one can admire the canyon view. Inside the cave, it is lighted up. The cave still has remains of fossils embedded on the surface of the walls. The walk through the main tunnel in the cave is a pleasant one, with just the patterns and shapes on the walls to look at.
One of the best kept secrets in Cherrapunji was this cave, Arwa Cave. With tourism, this has become a major attraction.
We spend some time inside the cave before departing to another location, which is the site of an ancient civilization that flourished in the Cherrapunji area. We were chasing the sunset and wanted to reach our final destination before it gets too dark. The sun was setting in the horizon when we reached the ancient site of Rangjirte. There were a number of stone structures which were connected to iron smelting in these hills. Another rectangular block of stone had 12 round hollows on its surface, believed to be a game played by our forefathers. The game is forgotten today, but the relics of a civilization still remain.
This is ancient, thousands of years old. Sohra, or better known as Cherrapunji, offered us multiple stories. It's just a day in a village, but we take back a lifetime of memories.
Rangjirte, as the heritage site is called, is just one aspect of the Cherrapunji plateau. There is much more to be explored and discovered here in Cherrapunji.